The first time I came out to my grandparents, I thought I was going to break their hearts. I had spent weeks rehearsing every word, pacing in my room at night, whispering to the walls like they could prepare me for the silence that might follow. I'd come out to my friends, to my parents, even to myself. But this felt different. This was family history, tradition. People who grew up in a time where words like gay and queer were whispered, not celebrated. And I was terrified. Terrified that the people who had loved me my whole life, the people who taught me how to tie my shoes, who saved every drawing I ever made, would suddenly see me as a stranger. But what happened that day didn't just surprise me. It changed the way I understood love. My grandparents were the definition of old-fashioned. The kind of people who believed in coffee at sunrise, prayer before dinner, and handwritten birthday cards. My grandfather was quiet, steady, and kind. He fixed things that didn't even need fixing, like squeaky doors or clocks that ticked too fast. My grandmother was the opposite. Warm, talkative, always fussing over everyone. Together, they were balance. They raised my mom, then helped raise me. I grew up in their house most weekends. My childhood memories smell like their kitchen. Butter, cinnamon, and a little bit of dust from the old recipe books stacked on the counter. But when I realized I was gay, they were the one part of my world that I left untouched. I told myself they didn't need to know, that they wouldn't understand, that maybe it was kinder to keep the truth to myself. That's something no one tells you about coming out. It's not just about being brave. It's about deciding who gets to know the real you and when. It's about choosing between peace and honesty. And for a long time, I chose peace. Or at least, I thought I did. But secrets have a way of growing heavier the longer you hold them. Every time my grandmother asked if I was dating anyone, every time my grandfather winked and said, "Some nice boy will come along," I felt that quiet ache. The one that says, "They love me, but they don't know me." Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to keep editing myself in the place I'd always felt most safe. So one afternoon I decided to tell them. It was a Sunday. We'd just finished lunch. Her famous pot roast, his favorite cornbread, and we were sitting in that same kitchen I'd grown up in. The air was thick with the smell of coffee, and the radio hummed softly in the background. It should have been comforting, but my heart was racing. I could hear every beat. My palms were sweating. My mouth was dry. I tried to start the conversation 3 different times. Each time, the words stuck in my throat. I'd look at my grandmother's smile, at the way my grandfather's hands rested calmly on his newspaper, and think, "Don't ruin this." But then she looked at me, tilting her head the way she always did when something was wrong. "Sweetheart, you look nervous. Are you okay?" And that was it. The point of no return. I said, "There's something I want to tell you." My voice was shaking. My chest felt tight. They both looked up, waiting. My grandmother's eyes were kind but curious. My grandfather folded his paper and gave me his full attention. And for a second, I wanted to run. But I'd promised myself that I wouldn't live another year half hidden. So I took a deep breath and said it. "I'm gay." The words hung there, heavier than I expected. The clock ticked once, twice. My grandmother blinked. My grandfather didn't move. And in that silence, every fear I'd ever had came crashing in. I imagined her disappointment. I imagined him standing up and walking away. I imagined the love I'd known my whole life unraveling in real time. I felt myself shrinking, wanting to take it back, to fill the quiet with something else. anything else. But before I could say another word, my grandmother spoke. She said, "Oh, honey, is that all?" I froze. She laughed. This small, surprised laugh that made no sense at first. "We thought you were going to tell us something bad. Like you lost your job or you're sick or something serious." I stared at her. "Wait. You're not mad?" She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Mad? Why would we be mad?" I didn't know what to say. And then my grandfather, the man who never spoke unless he meant it, cleared his throat. "We've known for a while," he said simply. I blinked. "You... what?" He gave this little half smile, the kind that always meant he was amused but wouldn't admit it. "We're old, not clueless," he said. "You think we didn't notice how you looked at that girl you brought to Thanksgiving?" My grandmother chuckled. We said to each other, "Oh, she's a goner." I laughed, and it felt like something inside me cracked open. Years of fear, gone in a heartbeat. I said, "I was so scared to tell you." My grandmother squeezed my hand again. "Oh, sweetheart. We were scared you'd never tell us." That line hit me like a wave. I'd been so focused on protecting myself that I never realized they might have been waiting to love me in this way. Fully, completely, openly. My grandfather stood, walked to the counter, and poured more coffee like nothing monumental had just happened. But then he turned to me and said quietly, "You're my grandchild. That's never going to change." It wasn't a speech. It wasn't loud or dramatic. But it was the most powerful thing I'd ever heard. And then my grandmother, as if sensing the moment needed grounding, said, "Well, I suppose now I can stop trying to set you up with the neighbor's son." We all laughed. Big, real laughter that filled the whole kitchen. That was the twist. Not the heartbreak I'd braced for. Not the quiet rejection I'd feared, but joy. Pure, uncomplicated, ordinary joy. Before that day, I thought coming out meant risking love. After that day, I realized it's what deepens it. For years, I thought acceptance would always be conditional. That I had to hide the parts of myself that might make people uncomfortable. But my grandparents taught me something I'll never forget. Love that's real doesn't need to be protected from the truth. It doesn't shrink when challenged. It expands. That conversation changed me. It gave me a peace I didn't know I was missing. For the first time, I could visit them and just be. No pretending, no censoring, no worrying about slipping up and saying she instead of they. They met my girlfriend a few months later. My grandmother gave her a hug so warm it made her cry. My grandfather shook her hand and said, "You're family now." It was simple. But in that simplicity was everything I had ever wanted. That day became one of the defining moments of my coming out journey. Not because it was perfect, but because it proved that love can surprise you. It taught me to stop assuming the worst. Sometimes the people we think won't understand us already do. Sometimes they've been waiting, quietly, patiently, for us to trust them enough to let them in. If you're listening to this and you haven't come out yet, maybe you're still trying to figure out when or how or if, I want you to know this. You don't have to rush. You don't have to have the perfect words. And you don't have to be fearless. But when you're ready, when the weight of hiding starts to feel heavier than the risk of being known, tell your truth. Because you deserve love that sees all of you. You deserve connection that doesn't rely on pretending. And no matter how it goes, you'll find your people. The ones who make space for you. The ones who cheer for you. The ones who see your heart before your label. For me, it was my grandparents. For you, it might be your friends, your siblings, a teacher, a community online. But they're out there, and every time we tell our stories, Every time we add our voices to the chorus of lesbian stories and queer experiences that make up this world, we make it safer for someone else to speak too. That's how we change things. One story at a time, one truth at a time. So if this story resonated with you, share yours in the comments. Tell me about your first time, the person you told, the reaction that surprised you, the moment that set you free. Because the world needs more of these stories. The world needs your story. And if you want to keep hearing more truth, more love, more real, messy, beautiful moments from this wild coming out journey we're all on, subscribe. Not just for me, but for the community we're building here. A place where you don't have to whisper who you are. You can just exist. Proud, open, whole. Because sometimes, the people you fear will reject you will be the ones who surprise you the most. And sometimes, the love you were afraid of losing was never in danger at all. That's what I learned that day in my grandparents' kitchen. The love that raised me, the kind that smelled like cinnamon and sounded like laughter, didn't disappear when I told the truth. It grew. And I promise yours will too.